Hey everybody, it's Grayson. Welcome back to the channel, and I hope you're having a great day. I'm going to jump right in, and I'm going to do a reaction to a video from Richard Fain, who is another personal finance / wealth YouTuber that I am a fan of. I actually follow his stuff, and he is great. If you don't follow him, you probably should. Him and I think very similarly on wealth growth topics and just maximizing our money. Now, he did put out a video, and this video is in the description below, which said you should never pay cash for a car. And for a lot of reasons, I used to believe him. But since I just went through this a couple months ago, and I myself ended up paying cash for a new truck, new to me, it was used, I want to discuss why I actually ended up doing that. So if you haven't watched his video, make sure, again, it's in the description to check it out. It is good, and he does give great information in there. He gives some pros and cons. So make sure to check it out, and then I'm gonna get right into it. But before I do, make sure you like and subscribe. It would really help out the channel, and let's go. Okay, so he gives 4 specific things as pros to paying cash for a car. That is basically no interest, staying on budget, cashback deals, and negotiating power. Now, the 3 cons that he gives are opportunity cost, financing deals, and savings. So again, if you haven't watched his video, you can look and see what he describes as each of those, but I'm gonna go over a couple of those right now. Now, since COVID and the few years past that, a lot of the negotiating power and cashback deals that you used to be able to get when you paid cash are non-existent because there are still not great deals out there. The auto market really hasn't recovered in regards to prices coming back down from the crazy levels that they went to. And trust me, I know this because I actually bought a truck and trucks were crazy high. I mean, this was one of the first times I've ever seen that used vehicles appreciated in value instead of depreciated. So it was quite crazy. So the negotiating power of cash and the cashback deals often didn't exist. At least it didn't exist for me a couple of months ago. And then on the other side, financing deals as a con, basically meaning you could get a better deal if you finance the car to save you more money, also didn't exist. How do I know this? At least for me, and at the dealership that I went to, they gave me no deal if I paid cash or I used their own financing. So I didn't have any skin in the game on either side of the coin. So let's discuss why I even decided to pay cash for a car. I have been searching for a truck for several years. Even though my vehicle was working fine, it was getting older, had nearly 200,000 miles on it. I didn't need a truck, but I wanted it for different things. So I wasn't really actively looking for one unless something came up that excited me, either a good deal and all the features that I wanted. They were few and far between. So I started saving for this truck and a specific budget that I had. Now, when the prices started going up, I realized I was probably going to need more cash if I ended up deciding to buy a vehicle. So I saved more. Unfortunately, around November of last year, the vehicle I had decided to crap out. It would end up just turning off as you're driving completely. I'm talking electricity, everything. It would turn off completely. You'd have to put it in neutral and then crank it back up. Now, when I'm by myself, not a big deal, but when my kids are in the car, that is not okay. So it had to go. So it was time to get a truck. There weren't that many great deals still, but there was one truck that came up in the morning one day, and it had all the features I've been looking for, and it was on the line that I wanted, and it was in my budget, even though on the higher end. So I went in and test drove it and ended up purchasing it. While I was there, I asked to see if I could get a better deal by paying cash. Basically, they wanted to know what I was paying, but I wanted to see if I could get the price down before I gave them a definitive answer. So I played a little bit of game knowing that I could pay cash or I could finance. I also knew the interest rates that I was gonna pay if I used my own bank or a credit union. That is important. Make sure before you buy a car, you know the average interest rate that you can get for a loan. Because if you're getting it at the dealer, you oftentimes are gonna get fleeced by a interest rate. Case in point, this specific instance, the rates were quite high. Credit union was giving me around 6.75, and I have very good credit. And then some other banks were giving me around 7%. Again, not great rates. especially for vehicles. But the dealer wanted 9.5%. This is outlandish. So I definitely wasn't going to use them. Lo and behold, they weren't going to give me any specific deal. So I ended up paying cash for the car. Typically, I would most likely tell you before this event that you should use the cash to invest and make more money. Basically what Richard was talking about with opportunity costs. If you could invest the money, in my case, it was $35,000 that I paid for the truck. So if I could invest $35,000 and I can get 10% back per year, that is good money. But if you have to get a loan in order to get the truck, what is the difference between how much you pay the bank and how much you can get in investments? Again, that is basically what they call arbitrage. You're using someone else's money to make more money. Nothing wrong with that, and actually I do it quite often. But in this specific case, at a pretty bad rate of, let's say, average 7%, if I can only get 10% of my money, I have to pay taxes on that. And when you pay taxes on that money that you've earned, it gets pretty close to 7%. So you're really not making much at all. It's not making you enough money to be a hassle like having a monthly payment. I don't want another monthly payment. Even though I'm not averse to debt, like I have a mortgage, I just don't want another monthly payment, especially when it comes to car loans because they're expensive and it just adds more money to the bottom budget. I didn't want that. So paying cash actually ended up being better. Now, another reason why I ended up paying this cash is because the economy really is in a weird place. I wasn't sure where it was going. The stock market was down at the time when I was looking for the vehicle. I didn't really like what was happening. Now, the way I make my money is a business. I've had a business for 10 years. This is what makes all my money. And I knew that since my business was still doing well at the time, I could make that money back and fill up the $35,000 that I'm taking out of my savings. Keynote, I wasn't taking it out of my emergency savings. This was money that I saved up specifically for this car. So I knew that I could get this money back. And even though you could talk about, well, you could keep that cash and just pay off the loan, I knew that since my business was doing well, it was a smarter idea and a safer idea to just pay the cash, own the vehicle, and then fill the savings account back up. And really, it comes down to security and mindset. What makes you sleep better at night? And one thing that most people keep forgetting is that when you buy a new car, even if it's new or used, even though I do not recommend buying new cars, how about a new to you, you have to often pay higher insurance rates and higher taxes. Because your older vehicle is older, the tax rate's not as high, and neither is the insurance rate. So you're gonna be paying even more than just the monthly payment for the loan. That's something that people often forget. But outside of that, I needed the comfort of knowing that I could sleep well at night, and I just didn't want an extra monthly payment on top, so paying cash was great. Even though I was dropping $35,000, I wanted the security of knowing that that was my truck, I owned it, and there was something very powerful about driving away from the dealership, knowing that I paid cash for that truck and it was mine. The only things I had left was insurance and taxes every year. I didn't have to make payments to the bank. And there is something very powerful about that. To be honest, I don't know if I'll ever use a loan for a car again. There was just something very awesome about paying cash for a car. Doing the work, saving up for it, and then writing a check to the dealer and walking out. It even shortened the process dramatically. I didn't have to wait for any financing person because I just said, here's a check for $35,000. They wrote all up the paperwork that I needed, and I was in and out relatively quickly. That was awesome. So I do think that Richard has some really good points. In normal times, if you could get a loan that was at about 3%, 3.5%, and you could invest your money and get a 10% average return, I think it's a no-brainer then. You can make more than you'd have to spend. But in this instance, at the time, with the economy being kind of strange, the market being down, and the interest rates just being terrible, it just didn't make sense. So it's always going to come down to you personally. What's your risk tolerance? Do you feel better not having a loan so you can sleep at night and not have to worry about your vehicle being repossessed if you stop paying the loan? Or are you someone that has the growth mindset and you want all of your money, no matter how much it is or where it is, to make more money? There's nothing wrong with that. I do that the majority of the time, but in this instance, it just didn't feel right for me. So paying cash is what I did. And months later, I'm still happy with that decision. I'm glad I did it. And it took me several months to kick my brain in and say, you should just pay cash for the car. And it ended up being a game time decision. I literally made the decision while I was sitting there at the dealer talking prices. Now, I did have a little bit of negotiating power because I told them I only had $35,000 and this was what I was going to pay, and they needed to get the pricing with taxes and all that other stuff that they add on there, doc fees and all that. They needed to get it at $35,000 or I was just going to walk out, and that's what they did. They ended up dropping the price about $2,500 in order to get me where I wanted to be. So it felt great. It worked out in the end. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Do you like financing vehicles? Does that bother you? Do you like the idea of paying cash for a car? Or is it going to change depending on your scenario? I think it certainly can. I would never say never in regards to if you should pay cash or get a loan for a car. You do what's best for you. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video today. I hope to see you again on Wealth Bites, and I hope we're all just a little bit wealthier.